welcome back, everybody. Last week, James took us through the biggest needs in the AFC West Division in the NFL. This week, we're switching conferences. We're staying out west, going to the NFC. James, take it away.
All right, guys. Going to be the exact same format as last week. Hope you guys enjoy because we're doing it again. We're going to start off with the Seattle Seahawks. Finished first in the division this year, 12-4. Lost to the Rams in the playoffs. They currently have $6.1 million in their cap. Biggest storyline of this offseason, though, is Russ wants out. That's huge. That's your franchise player. He wants to get out of there. Since he's been in the league, he's the most sacked quarterback. Trading. What is their biggest offseason need?
Well, I don't know. I would have to say, I mean, the offensive line is obviously an issue, but I don't know what they can do to fix that easily. They don't have very many resources. I actually think they need to focus on defense. Defensively, the team is not they're not the was it the 2012 Seahawks? I believe that was it 2012 that they were just absolutely insane.
Yeah, dude.
Remind me. Yeah, they're not that anymore at all.
Oh man, that team was dominant. And 2013
and they're just not that anymore. They have a lot of high-level contributors that are going into free agency, and so they have to find ways to improve. I also their pass defense is the biggest question mark for me. So they got to find a way to improve the secondary. So maybe pick up a cornerback. There's a couple at the draft, but I would say in the free agency you could look at Gary and Conley. That'd be a good option. That's what I have. I think that their defense just needs to improve. I know that Russ has, I know that the offensive line is an issue. I just don't think they have enough resources to really fix that right away. They weren't terrible. I mean, in points for, they were 8th in terms of offense. They didn't have the greatest yardage rank, but they're below average in terms of defense. And I think that's where you got to start fixing your problems. You have a great quarterback, hopefully, and I think that's what you focus on first.
Tyler.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the O-line here. I think that they need some help to shore up that protection for Russell Wilson. I mean, well, first of all, make sure Russell Wilson comes back. Make sure that you appease whatever he needs to be able to stay in Seattle. I think that's priority number one for sure. And I think part of that problem is definitely fixing the O-line. I think KJ Wright is he's a player that's been on that team. He's a free agent. I think you should re-sign him. I think he was one of their best offensive linemen. And then
KJ Wright is a linebacker.
Oh, I fucked up. Shit.
Yeah, he's on the line, like the offensive line, right? Linebacker.
KJ Wright's definitely a linebacker.
I fucked up the line part. All right. Well, going into the free agent market, then Alex Mack of Atlanta. I think he's got a lot of veteran presence there that can help shore up that O-line for the Seahawks. They have a lot of free agents too. Shaquille Griffin and Chris Carson on the offensive side. Those are two guys that you need to address as well if you're going to bring them back or not. So there's a lot of question marks with this Seattle team, but I think priority number one is definitely, making sure that Russell Wilson feels comfortable long-term.
I agree. Alex.
I do agree that I think, keeping Russ comfortable is the priority. I don't know how they're going to do it. And I don't really know where Russ could get traded. Trade him to
Chicago.
Trade him to Houston and have just as shitty of an offensive line. And then Deshaun Watson gets to do the same thing in Seattle, and that would be really funny.
That would be funny.
It's not what I picked. I do think the offensive line is obviously a need, but the other problem is their defense. They did not get after the quarterback last year when their leading sacker is a safety. That's not a positive thing. We do know that safeties are the most important player in football, but right now, that's not what the Seahawks need. They need edge rush. They need help. So if they can swing it, they might have to do, there might have to be some cuts because they don't have a ton of cap space. But Alden Smith, formerly of the Cowboys, little bit of an iffy, questionable background for sure. but he would automatically already be their best defensive, edge rusher, defensive lineman. I think, if they can get after the quarterback, that will just help kind of the flow of their games. You saw they could barely get after him. Jared Goff / John Wolford in that playoff game. So that's what I'm going for.
It broke John Wolford's neck.
That's because he dove head first. That's his own goddamn fault.
Eric, what you got?
I got to go offensive line, and they need to get Corey Linsley from the Green Bay Packers. Didn't you bring this guy up last time? Well, he is a free agent, and they need people to block if they're going to have Russell Wilson. Yeah, Russell Wilson. I almost said Westbrook. They're going to have him come back. He was running all over the place like he always does, but getting sacked by the Rams. So he needs someone to block and give him time, and that's what they need. But fuck the Seahawks. I hope they do really bad. Nobody likes them, but that's, get an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Tyler for the first time all night, and also with Eric. Priority number one is to keep Russ on the Seahawks. To keep Russ on the Seahawks, you need to get an offensive line to keep Russ happy. Biggest problem there was their guard, Damian Lewis. I mean, he was a rookie, but he allowed 4 sacks, 29 hurries, and 33 pressures over the season. You expect those numbers from a bad tackle, but as a guard, you have to be really, 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 really bad to get those numbers, and that's exactly what he is. He's not a good player. So to fix it, we're going to go to the Patriots. We're going to take Joe Thuney from the Patriots. The dude hasn't missed a game his entire career. His pass blocking grade is an 88. He's only allowed 2 sacks and 15 hurries all season long. Great guy. I think the salary commands is 2 years and $15 million. So about $7 million. So if you can make a cut somewhere, you can sign this guy. And that's going to be a huge upgrade to your offensive line.
Question is how do you cut? That's the big question.
I'm sure there's somebody that would want to be out of there and get more playing time. And it's an easy $1 million, So for the Seattle Seahawks, for them to improve, they need an offensive line. Moving on to everybody's favorite team on this podcast, except for me and Trayden, and that's the Los Angeles Rams. They finished 10-6. They lost to the Bucs. They had the best defense in the league last year, and historically a top 25 defense. They're dominant. Tyler, who do they need? And make sure you got your positions correct this time.
Yeah, working on it. So obviously, I think that they filled their biggest need, getting a new quarterback. So Matthew Stafford coming in via trade. I think they're pretty much short up. I think a couple question marks for me is, do they re-sign Leonard Floyd? This guy, on the defensive side of the ball was one of their best players behind Aaron Donald last season. He's probably going to demand some money, which the Rams don't have a ton of. So that will be an interesting thing to play out. Also, their offensive line, Andrew Whitworth, an amazing career, amazing guy. He's going to be 40 years old. They're going to have to come up with a kind of a plan B for him. He's probably, he was out for a few weeks last season with an injury. So I think moving kind of towards the future a little bit without Whitworth on the offensive line is something to address. Maybe taking Trent Williams away from the 49ers and plugging him into our system, kind of 2 birds with 1 stone type of situation. I think would work well for the Rams there.
The problem with the Trent Williams thing is that he commands a $23 million per year salary, which you don't have.
Right.
So that may not be feasible.
Maybe he likes Los Angeles better than San Francisco and takes a pay cut.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
Alex, who you got?
Yeah. So first off, the Rams have zero money, no money. The problem is they've got a lot of money tied up in about 6 contracts. And my solution is they're going to have to cut guys. They're going to be tough decisions. Unfortunately, Michael Brockers might be one of those cuts, or he's been on the trade market. And they need, if they can, and Les Snead somehow always seems to figure it out, to restructure some of these long-term contracts to stretch them out. That's, to kind of save cap space. If it was up to me and we had infinite amount of money, I would bring back John Johnson. He's an elite safety in this league. And, obviously with AD in the front and Jalen Ramsey on the outside, they have one of the more dynamic duos in the NFL. That defense led that team last year. And, I do agree with Tyler. Already getting Matt Stafford really helps. Just minimum more consistent quarterback play should help. especially when you've got guys like Kupp and Woods and Higbee. Cam Akers, I'm thinking is going to take a big step forward. And it seems like all of their big free agents are on the defensive side. I don't think they're actually going to be able to afford John Johnson. But someone I do think they could bring back is Troy Hill. He is a bright spot on that defensive, those D-backs. But yeah, they're going to have to restructure some contracts, and they're going to have to cut some guys or make some trades because they have like zero cap space right now.
Eric?
I'm going to stick to the same trend that I was talking earlier. Offensive line, I'm going to agree with Tyler on the Whitworth comment. This guy's been like their veteran O-lineman. He's probably the one that, leads the pack for them. And they're going to need an answer. They're going to need a backup for him. They filled the void by getting Stafford, my most hated fantasy quarterback. So hopefully he fixes that this year. Get that guy Joe Thuney you're talking about from the New England Patriots. Guy didn't miss a game, as you said. That'd be a perfect, fulfillment for Whitworth to help lead that O-line. Or, maybe a guy like Russell Okung from the Panthers, like get a guy who maybe is willing to take a little less money, but that's, a veteran presence on the O-line. Just help lead this offense with Stafford and Akers and the rest of them.
So the biggest problem, what you said, is that Andrew Whitworth is a left tackle and Joe Thuney plays right guard.
Well,
different positions.
Pick and plug,
You can
O-line is what they need.
They might as well just get a tight end, put him at the tackle position, see what happens.
Just put Higbee there. He's big enough.
He is big enough. That's a big dude. Trade.
Look, there's not much I can say. I mean, the guys kind of already kind of spelled it out. I think, to be honest, they got their biggest need in an elite, in what I think is a solid quarterback, really good quarterback, better than what they had. That was their biggest need. If you had asked us this 4 weeks ago or whatever, that would have been everyone's answer, right? I think that's pretty clear. They don't have much money. They have negative cap space. So I think the most important need is to Alex's point, restructure contracts, shed some money so that you can bring back some key defensive guys. This team is very top heavy. That's what you need to focus on. Is you need to focus on bringing back some free agents that clearly have done it for you already. I'd say Darius Williams. I know he's on a restricted free agency contract. You have to bring them back. He had a breakthrough season. Got to bring that guy back. Got to try and bring back John Johnson if you can. Troy Hill, to Alex's point, is another huge one. That's your biggest thing is to find the money. That's your need, is money. That's the need.
I like that. I agree with Tyler once again. They feel their biggest need in quarterback. If they honestly stayed with the same roster and had an upgrading quarterback, they will perform better this year. Jared Goff just wasn't it. The dude couldn't read defenses, and he faltered under pressure. Matt Stafford is used to pressure because he played in Detroit. He can do well in this offense. I expect the Rams to be a lot better this year with Stafford under center. Moving on to the Arizona Cardinals. They were 8-8 last year. For a team that was coached by an offensive genius, they were pretty middle of the pack offensively. And also defensively, they're also middle of the pack. So far, they have $13 million in cap room that they can spend. Alex, what is their biggest need and how do they fix it?
Yeah, so their cornerback play last year, they've had, they have guys that have been elite in the past. They are not so anymore. They need to let those guys go. There's cheaper options on the free agent market. Ronald Darby of the Washington football team or Gary and Conley of the Texans are both cheaper options. They played well last year, and they will be upgrades. And they're not that expensive. And that still gives some money space to go after maybe another tight end or another receiving option for Kyler Murray. Obviously you got D-Hop, that's legit. But Larry Fitzgerald might retire. He's not the guy anymore. Getting one more great receiving option for Kyler is also a big help.
You took the words right out of my mouth. That's pretty much what I was going to say too. Good stuff, man. Eric, what do you got?
They need a tight end. They need a big dude that can block, that can also be involved on the play action for Kyler Murray. Just make it more of a threat. Like if everyone knows he's going to try to run it in, so people come and run at him. Get a guy like Hunter Henry, a free agent from the Los Angeles Chargers. Guy's pretty good. He'd probably fit right in, but if not him, maybe a guy like Mo Alley Cox, a guy who kind of shined last year for the Colts for a team that nobody expected to be as good as they were. And, he was a big fantasy pickup, I believe, for other people. And he could be another guy that fits in well. But Hunter Henry would be great for them.
What's wrong with their existing tight end? Dan Arnold.
Who is it?
Dan Arnold.
Yeah, I guess he's pretty good. But if you have two of them, yes! Fuck, my bad, Alex.
God damn it, dude.
Dude. Holy fuck. But anyways, yeah, my bad, Alex. I'm ruining this game for you. But
it's going to be goalie interference.
No.
That's goalie interference, man.
Fuck.
All right, moving on. Trayton, what do you got?
Yeah. Look, it's tough. This one's another tough one because this is clearly the toughest division in the NFL, in my opinion. I mean, these four teams are fantastic, can be fantastic. I think I don't agree with Eric because I don't think they use the tight end much in their scheme, so there's not much of a need to upgrade. I think you can do fine with what you got. I think that defensively, that's where the decisions that need to be made. They're not going to have much cap space to bring all the contributing guys back. Reddick is the highest priority. You have to bring him back. So that's the main key. Meaning, their clear need at cornerback is going to be exposed. Like they're gonna need it, and so that may be a draft type of situation, or you could look at Troy Hill. You could look at Cameron Sutton. You could look at those dudes to fill in. But I don't know that you're going to be able to if you're going to put all of your most of your funds to Reddick, because I think that he's going to be needed to come back. He led the team's pass rush after Chandler Jones' injury this past season. He registered 12.5 sacks. I mean, that's a high value free agent. You can't let him go. So that's your need right there. Just make sure you sign him.
That's a good point. But the thing about that is that Isaiah Simmons didn't play in many games last year, but Isaiah Simmons can play every single position in the secondary and linebacker. So it could be that hybrid position that you're looking for on a rookie contract. Towards the end of the year, Isaiah Simmons came out of nowhere and was one of their best defensive players. He just didn't play the first 8 games.
There you go.
Just a thought right there. Tyler, last but not least, what do you got?
I'm going to agree with Eric, and I'm going to go with tight end as well. I think having Hunter Henry on that team would make that team very, very good. I don't think the Chargers are going to let Hunter Henry go, though. I think that they're going to shore up that contract with him. But Zach Ertz reportedly wants out of Philly. So that could be something to look into, make a trade and get Zach Ertz there in Arizona. I think they need a little bit more of a dynamic offense, a little bit more weapons for Kyler Murray to work with, especially if Larry Fitzgerald. I mean, we don't know about Fitzgerald's future, if he's going to come back, if he's going to retire. So I think giving Kyler more weapons to work with is a huge need for the Cardinals.
Nice. I didn't think anybody would agree with Eric, but there it is. That was weird.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, I agree with Alex, but my person of interest would be Quentin Denmark from Seattle. He had an injury with last season, so he's going to come pretty cheap. 2 years ago when he was with the football team, which were the Redskins at the time, he was a shutdown corner. He was one of the best corners in the league. Went to Seattle for a 1-year show-me deal, got injured, so he's going to come cheap again for another 1-year deal. If he plays to the level he played at 2 years ago, he's going to be a huge addition and a huge upgrade for the Arizona Cardinals team. Last but not least, moving on to my beloved San Francisco 49er team, 6-10 last year, tough year, a lot of injuries, $13 million in cap. Eric, what do you got?
They need a quarterback, okay? It's that simple. Jimmy G is the new Jared G of that division. He's on a short leash, I think. He had that one good year, went to the Super Bowl. Dak Prescott is still a free agent.
No, he's not.
What?
No, he's not.
Can't afford
Not as
him
of today. He
anyway.
just signed a 4-year, $160 million deal.
He did today.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, screw him. I'm glad you guys didn't get him anyways, because we wouldn't have wanted to see that. Mitchell Trubisky is a free agent. You could always go after him, James.
Whoa, wait a second. You're literally gonna come on here and tell me that Mitch Trubisky is an upgrade over Jimmy Garoppolo.
I would hope that the Niners would just get him, just to have him.
Why? And pay him to do what? Sit there? Guess what he's gonna do?
Advice on
Get some
how to
water?
not be bad.
We can get you. You're the water boy. Come on, bro.
I could throw a touchdown more than him, probably. Fitzmagic is still around. Jameis Winston, but no. In all truthfulness, Cam Newton could be a good fit there.
Different scheme. They don't run the same scheme.
Yeah, Jimmy G just doesn't have what it takes, man.
He was injured last year.
You think Jimmy G has what it takes? You think Jimmy G has?
Yeah,
what it
I'm
takes?
sticking with Jimmy G as my quarterback. Unless they get Deshaun Watson.
Okay, so when
I would love to have Jimmy G back.
When they start like 1-5, are you going to be like, Jimmy G's pretty good still? I think I believe in him.
No, but then that's what next year's going to tell me.
Well, that's what they need, a quarterback.
Yeah, that was stupid.
That's my take.
Trade, what do you got?
Okay. Look, I'm not gonna come here and say quarterback unless you tell me that you can get Deshaun Watson. That's the only thing that would make sense. Look, this team was only bad because of like their entire squad was injured. Like everybody was on both sides of the ball. Like that's the reality. They're likely not gonna have that next season. So they're not, even if they brought literally everybody back, which can't happen because of the free agents. They're going to be better than they were last year. Now, back to my point. It's another tough one. I think that your biggest, most important signing is Trent Williams. You got to keep him, I think. I think you got to find a way to keep him. Because if you don't, I think that's a huge left tackle. That's a huge hole to fill. Like that's something. I don't know if you can fill it, right off the bat. So what that means is if you're going to put all your funds to Trent Williams, you need to address the cornerback group, I think. And I think that's where you're going to have to focus. Be smart with some money. You may have to go to the draft again, similar to what I just said. It's like a copy and paste here, but I also look at Rasul Douglas. Rasul Douglas, is that right?
Yeah.
You could sign him if the money fits. Maybe a Mike Hilton, but I think that you need to make sure that Trent Williams stays a 49er.
Yeah. To your point, Trent Williams was literally rated as the best left tackle of the entire NFL last season. So, and as I mentioned earlier, he's going to command a pay rate of $23 to $25 million per year. Guy's a monster. Tyler, what do you got?
So I definitely think that they should entertain the Deshaun Watson possibility. They should definitely look into that. But I mean, yeah, unless they get Deshaun Watson, Jimmy G's their quarterback. But I think everything, looking at everything else, I mean, I think Trayton is right. I mean, a lot of this, the reason why the Niners were not good last year was because of their injuries, and they're going to get a lot of those guys back. So hopefully they stay healthy and they'll be one of the top teams in that division once more. I think one spot that they could potentially fill, I think Richard Sherman may or may not come back if he does leave. I think that, they're going to need another cornerback. So Shaquille Griffin from Seattle, one of the top guys. Again, kind of what I said with, the Rams taking away Trent Williams. How about the Niners take away Griffin? So you're kind of, killing two birds with one stone, improving your team and weakening one of your division rivals. So for me, I think that would be their biggest need.
If that happened, the Rams would have definitely won that little trade or switch, just so you know.
Well, yeah.
And then Alex, last but not least.
Yeah, so I have a couple of things. I think first you cut D Ford. He's been pretty shit for you. You need the cap space because the rest of your defense is all free agents other than Jimmy Ward. Literally all of them feel like they're free agents. So cut D Ford, save $15.3 million in cap space, which is a huge chunk. Sign some of those defensive backs because you're going to need help. Richard Sherman is not coming back. Definitely sign some of those guys and then use the money for Trent Williams. just like you said, he was the best graded left tackle in the game. You need to protect your quarterback. That's how you do it, by having the best left tackle in the game. To Eric's point, I can conceive the idea that the Niners cut Jimmy G, save all that cap space, and go after one of the top guys in the draft, because they do have a much higher pick than I think they were originally intending. If the Niners feel like Justin Fields is slipping, go get him. Go get him in the draft if they think they can. But I don't think it will happen. I can understand the idea of getting rid of Jimmy G, trying to get out of that contract. It definitely seems like from this point, it's too much money for one half of a good season, kind of a good second season. And then, yeah, just like everybody else, they're gonna be better on the injury front. I mean, it was unbelievable how much money and talent they had on the injured reserve last year. But if you don't think that you can do that and get better, you do play in the toughest division in football. So if you want to take a step back and rebuild for 2 years down the road, I can also see them doing that.
A lot of good points there. I like the idea of going to the draft. I'm more okay with going to the draft for a quarterback than I am of just getting Mitch Trubisky. Cheaper all the way around. Justin Fields, I said, was going to drop to 9. I don't think he's dropping any farther than 9.
And I don't think so either, but
13.
Maybe they trade up.
Could you trade up?
It could. Yeah, but then you're going to have to go for a big asset. And in that case, I think the only big asset we have is Nick Bosa. And I'm not giving up.
They're not going to give him up. I don't think they will. I just think it's a possibility.
Yeah. If he drops far enough.
Yeah.
I would for sure take Justin Fields over Jimmy Garoppolo, just based off potential and how much cheaper he actually will be.
Rebuild around that.
Yeah. And to be honest, if they do get Justin Fields, I don't know if it'll be a rebuild year. Justin Fields has enough good poise and talent to play in an NFL system, and surrounded with good people and a good coach, I think he might be somewhat successful. But going to my need, I went different than everybody else here. Some of you said offensive line, but named the left tackle in Trent Williams. I'm going to go center. The Niners were 26 out of 32 in terms of pass blocking. Their number one center from 2 years ago, Weston Richburg, was out all of last season due to injuries. And they had 4 different people playing the center position. And like I've mentioned time and time again, the most important position in football is the center. They command your offensive line. They call out pass blocks. They call out blitz formations. They set the cadence. If you don't have a good center, you most likely will not have a good offensive line. Weston Richburg will be cut, much like D Ford, injury-riddled season, commanded a huge pay, huge. I think he is at 15 mil, and D Ford is also 15 mil. So getting those two off the books, it has some dead cap there, but that frees up almost 20 to 25 million right there in cap space. So that gives you a lot of money to maneuver through that. The way they feel it, you guys have mentioned it before. I think Tyler mentioned it, but I think you go Alex Mack from the Falcons. He's played in a Kyle Shanahan system before. They were successful when Kyle Shanahan and Alex Mack were on the same team. Alex Mack is going to be a Hall of Famer for center. I don't think there's any questions about that. He's one of the most dominant centers to play. He's 35 years old right now, so he's not going to play for any team. He's going to play for a team he wants that's a contender and a team that he's comfortable with. And there's no other team like the 49ers that fit both those qualifications. So I think Alex Mack will indeed be a 49er by the end of this offseason. And that is my segment, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Awesome. Thank you, James. Once again, these are always fun to go around and, try and play GM for a little bit. It's always a good time.